10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello everyone, welcome to another Mars4 game development AMA and live stream. Today we have a crap ton of questions to go through. We're also going to be joined by Spiros, our art director, as well as showing off some cool new gameplay footage and new features from the patch that went live a few hours ago. And we will be talking about future features to be coming in multiplayer, and we'll also be teaching you about Air Force NATO brevity code and the difference between a bandit and a bogey, which is very important information in today's economy and political atmosphere. So we'll first start. Let's be joined by Spiros. Welcome, man.
Hello. Okay. I did not see that one coming.
I mean, that fucking artist, because I told you it was coming. Like, when you started talking about that earlier, I told you specifically, that's like, stop this conversation. We're going to continue it on live stream because it's fucking interesting.
I thought you meant after the live stream.
No,
okay.
During the live stream, because it's a very interesting conversation. So, first of all, let's just chat a bit about what's going on. So, as the community knows, we just pushed a new patch to the game a few hours ago. In this patch, we've added a bunch of small fixes, stuff the community requested. And probably one of the most requested features was the jetpacks can now hover at a specific height. In addition to like flying up, you can also lock yourself at a specific height. So as you guys know, if you press control, you go up. And the moment you press spacebar, it locks you at that altitude while holding control. You're still burning fuel, but it means that you can like more easily raise up to like, let's say the 3rd story height and then go building, upgrading walls and stuff like that at that height. So that was definitely one of the most requested features we had. We've also done a lot of improvements on vehicles, although there'll be a lot more to come. And we'll get into that a bit further on in the AMA. What I'm going to do is we have like a lot of questions. It's also been a while since we all just hung out and chatted. So I'm going to start by going through a couple of the questions in the AMA, and then we'll chill out a bit, talk, show some cool stuff we're working on, show some like behind the scenes stuff from Spiros' side. We'll be playing in the background, showing off like some of the new features, some of the updates, fixes, and stuff we've added in the live build of the game. And then we'll carry on and do the rest of the questions, and that should give people some time, if you have any other questions, to be posting them in the YouTube chat and stuff like that. Wherever we post questions, post them in one place, because it's 4 p.m., which means I've already had 2 beers, so I'm not going to be running around all the different social media like forums and channels that we have trying to find questions. It looks like all questions posted on YouTube show up here nicely. So join our YouTube stream, and I forget what YouTube calls them, live something or other. Join that. The link to it is on our Discord and Twitch and Twitter, X, and all that stuff. And any questions you have, just drop them in the YouTube chat, and I will go through that then at the end of the stream. So I will start out. The first question, I'm not sure who organized these questions, is why is Nick holding a rifle and what drugs did he take? Because I want to take them as well. The drug that I took to become that beefy, which vanished very quickly, it's called tzatziki. In Greece, It's yogurt. It's a little bit of yogurt, like 1 part yogurt and 5 parts garlic. And that burns all the weakness out of you. Highly recommended. No one will kiss you for about a week after eating any, but it's really good.
It's also what happens when you leave Greece.
It's also what happens when you leave Greece. Yes, I am officially no longer in Greece. I have moved back to Barcelona, which is so nice. So nice. Have first world internet, dude. First world internet. Fucking 0.5 gigabyte per second upload speed.
First world traffic. Like, you have a metro, right?
Yeah, we have a metro. Dude. Like, it's just civilization. Just fucking welcome back to civilization, man. It's been amazing. And I don't know, the community may have noticed I was a bit silent for the past week because I was at Gamescom. That was a lot of fun. That was awesome. Met some great new people. Some probably pretty interesting collaborations for Mars4 and stuff. And you guys should keep checking on the media channels and stuff because there will be probably some more announcements coming out based on that, which I can't talk about just yet, but very promising stuff. So let me jump back to the questions a little bit. Fuzzy asked, when will roads be available? So for those who don't know, oh, dude, I love how the Mad Beetle looks. That's so good. Like, everyone, like, say thank you to Paula and stuff. Post in general chat praising Paula because she was the one who approved the idea of the Mad Beetle. We've been wanting to do something like that for a while, and she was, when she came up with that idea, like, hey, could we do like a crazy dystopian diesel punk version of a vehicle? I was like, dude, fuck yes. Like, no, yes, it's done. It will happen. Definitely. That was a lot of fun to make. But the question, when will roads be available? They're still in development now, but at the moment we're focusing on expanding on the multiplayer game features and stuff. So we don't have a release date for them yet. The
roads are going to be really useful for the Shire too.
Yeah, the Shire really will need roads. But yeah, we will. I'm not sure if we will have. George is also showing off in the gameplay some updates to the vehicle driving system. We have dramatically improved the low gear torque ratios, so you can climb up rocks and steep hills and stuff way better than you used to be able to. So roads, I don't have an exact date for it yet. It's something we've planned. We've sorted out all the technical details. The design functionality is there. George also showing off something else coming in this patch, which is now the Click Beetles and Mad Beetles, their reactors function. So you can use those vehicles to power machines and stuff. I believe they produce 150 kilowatts. And yeah, so that functionality is now being added in this expansion as well. But yeah, so roads, I don't have an exact date. Like, don't quote me on it, but I think probably 6 months, 5-6 months. Just as I said, right now we're really focusing on expanding all the features and functionality of the multiplayer version, which will get covered in some of the upcoming questions. But yeah, after we get that done, my goal right now is to get all the single player experience, all the single player crafting functionality, vehicles, environment, visual quality, all of that, get it all functional in the multiplayer version, in the next version of multiplayer, and then we will start adding more functionality, such as roads.
Drive off with a cable plugged on.
Yeah, it's fine. Next question. When will the second version of multiplayer be released? Officially, we don't have a launch date for it, but based on the way development's going, I think within a month or two is probably fairly reasonable. Once again, don't quote me on that, but internally, based on how development's going, we already have all the systems, all the machines, crafty, everything's working in multiplayer, but there's a few bugs, especially related to vehicle and vehicle physics, that we're still working through. And then we're adding in, we're working on some initial support for different player characters being able to own different blueprints, which will be an important step of differentiating, like crafting players and building players versus like miners and explorers and stuff like that. And yeah, so like unofficial, I think a month or two is probably pretty reasonable for the next version of multiplayer to be launched. And the goal for that next version of multiplayer is to have all the functionality that the single player has, but played multiplayer on a single hosted server. When will single player mode and multiplayer mode be combined into one launcher? At that next version of multiplayer that will be coming out, that will combine both single player and multiplayer. It'll be in the same game. You'll have one button to join the multiplayer, to join a multiplayer server, or just to launch your single player game and load your saves. and it won't be invalidating any of your saves. So like your current single player saves and stuff will still be working just fine. Once the full-fledged official multiplayer is released, what are the plans for additional content such as events, alien invasion, stuff like that? We have a few different things that we're designing. However, whether we go with the event system we're kind of considering is more utilizing an extraction, like a extraction shooter-esque base, where there'll be base as in architecture, not base as in like the thing you build, where we can have certain areas be something interesting, and you can go to those areas and play in those environments, and there'll be some varied rules, varied environment, something.
Like Division.
Yeah, not a bad example at all. In terms of, I think it was when. Oh, what are the plans? Not when. So in that, I think the first theme that we really want to be exploring, which we've already hinted at with the Mad Beetle, was the idea of people on Mars who were born on Mars don't have any legal binding to anything. And that also means like there's like laws applying to them would be very iffy. Like if you imagine a Mars colony, the first group of colonists sent there are from Earth. They're Earth citizens, bound to some extent by Earth laws, but their kids, if you don't declare them, don't exist. So in a very Greek tax evasion style of approaching galactic colonization, how do you deal with those people? Like, how do you prosecute or investigate someone who has no identity, no birth certificate, no ID number, no nothing, no place of residence, nothing? So that's going to be the first series of events will probably be themed around that concept, because it's a very interesting one lore-wise. It's something that Chris, our writer, has been having a lot of fun with, and that concept was the kind of the background lore that led to the Mad Beetle artistically. So there's a lot of meat in that concept for us to explore. So the next question, are the hazards going to be considered as events that the player will be rewarded if they survive with minimal damage to base, for example, working a team? Yeah, so hazards and stuff, like it's a massive paragraph of a question trying to sum it down. So like, will hazards be considered events that players are rewarded for surviving? Some hazards will be events. However, rewards for surviving, kind of depending on how you look at it, hazard-based events would involve, dude, like,
you survived.
You survived. You didn't die. Hazard-based events wouldn't necessarily be rewarding for surviving it well, but mixed with the hazard would be some rewards. So like, for example, an event that was radiation storms. If you survive the radiation, like during the radiation storm, there'd be some other benefits. Like maybe it would be, you'll be able to collect uranium from the atmosphere and condense it and smelt it down into functionable fuel for reactors and stuff like that. So the reward would come in built into the event somehow. It wouldn't necessarily be, oh, you didn't die in the sandstorm, so like here's a box of chocolates. It would more be like tied into the event. There would be a theme and function that you would be able to capitalize off of if you're willing to risk the hazards of the event. When will skill system be added? Once again, that's after the next version of multiplayer. We already have a lot of the functionality built in for it, but there's still a lot of balancing and design and stuff that we need to go through before we before we launched the Steels update. So once again, hard to say. It's be after we finish, after that next version of multiplayer is live and running well and fully QA'd, that I fucking love the Shire, dude. It looks so cool. So I would probably
put we designed too.
Was it the first, or technically was the Click Beetle first?
Well, the Click Beetle got designed first, but not come to completion. So
yeah.
this one's the first we designed completely. The Click Beetle was getting through iterations, and we were like.
And the Click Beetle, this was also the first one. Like, you did all of this, or did it start with an Anderzak sketch?
This one started sort of with an Anderzak sketch, sort of.
Oh, I remember,
like he had the head of it.
Yeah, like the side view with a lamppost next to it. Yeah. So yeah,
he had the head of the like Halo helmet coming into a shot from like and I was like, I'm making this into a giant truck. Let's go.
I love how it turned out. It's so fucking cool. I'm excited about making trailers and stuff for it. Like, that's gonna get really fun. That's gonna get really fun. Well, I'm thinking like for the first trailer to attach to it, just having it be a buildable platform. Like, just like simple foundations, you'd hook it up to the back of it, and it's just that. It's a buildable platform. You can build walls, you can build ceilings, like, so you can build a base that hooks up to the back of the Shire, and you can pull it around.
I'm itching to talk about the original concept of what this did, but I don't want to make promises. Well, the big train thing just going.
Oh, the train, yeah. I think we talked about that. Yeah, like, no promises in this. This is just like
the original idea is that once you have roads, right, you can basically, because Mars has a much lower gravity, you can make this just a giant convoy of what do you call them, containers. So you have one Shire which is in the front of the head, and then you have your containers back, and they're just, you just drive this on the road, and you have this like giant caterpillar of containers behind you. But obviously, there's a lot of technical problems with doing something like that, which.
But I think that there's like we'll be trying to sort those out. I have some ideas on how we just sort those out. The problem with that in the 3D game is that all vehicles are physics based.
Yeah,
exactly. Physics needs to be processed on the server. So if you have like a whole bunch of like trailers behind it, that's a lot of physics calculations that the server needs to be doing, which means like that's if everyone is driving around like land trains. Like this is Australia or some other fucking desolate, barren.
And then also, what happens if you make a mistake and you fall off the road? Then
there's a lot of questions to be dealt with there. But I think at least a single trailer piece, with like foundations, that's technically very doable, and we have a lot of
Command and Conquer
already. Oh, dude! Speaking of that, I saw some articles, something that like a new Command and Conquer is coming out. Have you seen that? I saw some like ads for it at GDC, at Gamescom.
No, you're the social person. You go to these
Dude,
what do you call them?
Dude, Gamescom. That was Gamescom. Dude, but like, Command and Conquer. I think that's like what got me into games.
Same.
Like fucking.
Same.
Man.
Tiberian Sun. No, way before Tiberian Sun, actually. Just Command
and Conquer. Like CNC1, like, yeah.
Westwood Studios.
Westwood was so cool. I met the founder of Westwood. I've told you that story, right?
Yeah, you did.
Lou Castle, yeah. He was like my idol of game dev. And people say don't meet your idols, but in that situation, untrue. The guy is freaking awesome.
Definitely meet your game dev idols.
Yeah, there was two things that really stuck with me. First of all, the first time I ever went drinking with him at San Francisco GDC, other people said, if you're gonna go drinking with Lou, bring your stunt liver. And that was just like such a good quote. I fucking love that. And the other one, like what he told me, which is so true, says
the 80% of game design.
Yeah, the second 90% of game development is way harder than the first 90%. And it's really true. Like you get to a point where you're like, oh man, we're almost done. And they're like, oh no, we're not. There's like between that, like, oh, it's almost done. And a launchable, polished product is just, whoa. That is a very wise advice. Are we, so some more of the questions here. Are we going to be able to taste how we can modify our vehicles in single player before official multiplayer release. Yes, because like official multiplayer, I assume you mean like full multiplayer, like 1.0 of the game. Obviously, that functionality will be added in before that. It'll probably be added into the single player version first, because the reason we have the single player version and now the multiplayer that you guys have as well is that it's easier to implement functionality in single player, tweak it, play test it, get your guys' feedback, and like change how it works in single player. And then once like we're happy with it, community's happy with it, then we expand on that functionality, optimize it for multiplayer, and then move it over to the multiplayer version. And that process, like that second half of the process of moving it over to multiplayer, is what has started now and what you guys will be seeing in the next release, in the next multiplayer update. So yes, like you will be seeing that functionality before like full 1.0 of the game.
Oh, you're out of fuel.
No, shit. He's good. When will we have more variations of windows? Huge windows, medium windows, tall windows, side windows, you get the idea. We actually have some concepts. Like, didn't you? I think you concepted out like some other versions of Windows and stuff at some point when you were doing the tier 3 building stuff.
I did do some bigger windows, but we ran into the problem of like, everything is a block.
Yeah.
And so how do you like? It'll basically have to be like a window
building piece,
and then another like you will be if we do it as it is right now, you'll basically be able to have like a window without a starter and finish, so it'll just meld into another wall. So we're just trying to solve that. Once we solve that,
I think that like technically it's not a problem. We're ready for it, and it's something we have been planning and toying with, but
it just looks ugly.
When that hits the art pipeline, I'm not sure, but probably less than 5 months. I think adding in like those building pieces, probably less than 5 months kind of thing. Like it's not too hard. It's just been on our backlog, but there's just so much stuff to do that unfortunately some things, stuff like the additional building pieces and stuff end up, they're not a high priority task. So they're like sitting there at medium priority, and just new high priority tasks keep showing up and they keep getting set back. But we will get to it.
Thanks, Paula.
Yeah, that's actually Paula's fault. We love her for it. The Click Beetle is fucking awesome, but yeah, that's a lot of her fault. Can we have similar things snap in a certain way next to each other or on the grid? Talked about furniture mostly. Yes, that's something we'll actually be working on. That task was just added for one of our engineers, the guy who owns the building system. When exactly that will be in, I'm not sure, because we have a few other tasks for him to sort out first, such as pets and some other architectural systems. Once again, architecture in terms of like designing the backend framework, not as in building buildings. But yeah, that is on his task list, especially with the new decoration set that's coming out. There'll be a new sci-fi living room decoration set with a modular sofa and dining table, not dining table, like coffee tables and end tables and chaise lounges and stuff like that. That's a modular system, so you can build, instead of what we have right now, where we have a few set sofas and chairs and stuff like that. Here it's a modular system where you can build the sofa to match the shape of the environment and the room with some cool underglow lighting. That really will benefit from some kind of snap-in system. And with that, we will be designing a decoration snap-in system. Exactly how hasn't yet been decided. It's kind of complicated. Think about it. We can't snap to map north, south, east, west, because, well, you could just place your foundation at a little bit of a wonky angle. And it's also kind of hard to snap to the foundation itself because, well, some pieces are bigger or smaller than a single foundation or floor or ceiling tile. So we're still working on that. The challenges, though, are very much in user experience and interaction design, not on the technical side. But with the new decoration set that'll be coming out, that's become a development medium level priority. As I said, I think once the pets system is finished, then Dennis will probably get working on that. And fixing a few bugs. There is, in this latest patch build, there are a few save bugs, like a few issues if you load a save game. Like if you log out, if you save and load again, I believe like the fuel in one of the slots in the vehicles will disappear, and also the cables connected to click beetles will disconnect. Minor details like that, and Dennis will first need to fix those. He is away on his much needed summer vacation at the moment, though. But for the next patch, that will be in. When can I deploy all the vehicles we have in our inventory in the game? Like before, at the moment, I can only deploy one vehicle at a time. That will be in the next patch, not the one that came out today. In the upcoming patch, we'll have that in. That was a lazy solution to a quick problem. So that will be sorted out probably by the next patch. So next month, we aim for our patches to come at the last week of every month. So in the next patch, unless we need to do a hotfix earlier, in the next patch that should be fixed. So I think with that, let's take a bit of a break and quiz time. One sec.
Oh no.
Wait, how do I? Does that work now? Present video file, share screen, slides. Your computer. Okay. Where the fuck? What file is that in? That's not. One sec. It's almost like I've never used your computer before.
If you're thinking of what I think you're thinking, it should be in your Discord.
Yeah, it is, but I'm trying to figure out how to upload it to the stream. And that's where. Download. Does Discord just throw shit in pictures? No. All files. Oh, quick access. Does this work? Invalid file type. Just fucking add a picture.
I can just stream my screen.
Yes, just screen share the screenshot.
let me open it for a second. All right. Okay, here you go.
And this will be a quiz. Whoever gets the right answer, I don't know, like something cool will happen. Have you? Oh, you should add a stream. Here we go. Can you zoom in a little bit for clarity's sake? So this will be today's quiz. What relation it has to Mars is undecided at the moment. We'll leave this on the screen for a moment for people to prepare their answers, and then Spiros will go explaining in detail and giving everyone a course on NATO brevity. Someone asked a question in.
If anyone plays DCS, this is a quiz for you.
A few days before. So someone asked, a few days before, circulating supply is 4 billion in coin market cap, but today it's only 62%. Any clarifications? I'm not, I'm in game dev, not on the crypto side, but on the tokenomics stuff like that side. But I do know that just recently, we were getting the coin market cap, circulating quantity, stuff like that verified officially and audited and all that stuff. So that may be why stuff has changed. But that's not my department. I just recall seeing that in the general chat. Okay, so let's see what.
I'm seeing some wrong answers.
I'm seeing some wrong answers, but no one's answering the wrong answer that I want.
No, because it's not the wrong answer; it's the right answer, right?
It is the right answer. Okay, so I guess at this point, We'll close the poll. Like, you have a few seconds to post like whatever you think the correct answer is in YouTube comments, because that's what shows up here. And then Spiro, do you want to take us through maybe from the bottom up what each one of those terms actually means in NATO brevity, if they exist?
I mean, Tenno Heka Banzai is not a NATO term, but you know.
Wait, but isn't Banzai like NATO brevity?
Banzai is, but not. This
Tenno
is
Heka
obviously
Banzai.
a joke. Like the people who wrote this quiz were just joking.
But so
Banzai. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, no, go ahead. What does Banzai mean in like NATO
Banzai
brevity
is
code?
when you're merging with an enemy fighter, which means that you are now within like each other's like turning bubble. So you would call, like, before you go in there, you would call your call sign, which might be like Night 1-1, right? You would say Night 1-1 merged, and then the type of the hostile that you can visually see. So the answer to this is B, I'm sorry to say. D, visual, is for your friend. The reason you say visual, the reason there's a difference for visual and tally is so that, when your wingman hears tally, he knows that you're talking about the bad guy. When he hears visual, he means some friendly guy, usually, within the same wing. Tenno Heka Banzai is unfortunately something Japanese pilots called during World War II. Let's not get into that one. But Banzai transferred over as, when you're now going in for guns or basically into the merge, into like either a 1 circle or a 2 circle, you would call, Night 1-1 Banzai merged MiG-21, whatever it is. Yeah, you're right, Holder. Technically, the people who said visual are also right, but not in the case of a hostile aircraft.
So just visual, because here the specific question is if you're unsure whether the aircraft is your wingman or hostile. So visual means you're sure it's your wingman.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the other question, like when I discussed this with Chris, our writer, is where does bogey and bandit fall in? So what are the differences there between tally, bogey, and bandit?
So tally is basically I see someone, I don't know what it is, and then, usually you would go tally 1, and then you would give a description of what you're seeing so that someone who has a better idea can tell you if that's a hostile or bandit or an ally or whatever it is, right? But what you're calling when you say tally is like, oh, I see something. Tally 1, and then you give a description like relevant to your position. Like you would say tally 1, 1 o'clock, high, 10 miles, right? But bandit, hostile, and bogey. Bogey is a night identified. Like bogey is a radar contact that you have absolutely no idea what it is. Like you just see something on the radar, on the scope, and you're like, bogey, that direction, this many miles, and then you'd probably call AWACS and your eye in the sky and ask for a declare so that they can tell you what it is, and they might say it's an airliner, they might say it's no factor, don't worry about it. But anyway, when it's identified as like a hostile aircraft that is not a threat to you or that you're not clear to engage, that's a bandit.
Do you give an example of what a bandit would be? So
let's say you're flying, right? You're flying patrol, and you pick up a radar contact. That's a bogey. You have no idea what it is. Then you ask AWACS, and you're like, hey, what is that guy? And they say, okay, so that's an enemy fighter plane, but you're not clear to engage it. So now it's a bandit. No longer a bogey. Now it's a bandit. If that bandit turns hot on you and starts looking like he's about to attack you, now it's a hostile.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
This is like the 50th time I've heard the description. So by now, after like the 25th time, I started to understand.
Look, bandit is the one you hear most in movies, right? Mm-hmm. And technically a bandit can be a hostile, but you would call hostile just to make sure that everyone knows that you're clear to engage that guy.
But bandit is you're not cleared to engage it yet.
Yes.
So you need to be wary of it. It may be cleared to engage you, but you're not cleared to engage it unless circumstances change.
Yeah.
That's cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, can someone from community management or something like take notes of the correct answer? However, I'm disappointed no one answered A.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
let's
telling
be
you, like
honest,
the people who made this quiz for our DCS community, they're gonna be very mad at me because I'm gonna be calling this Tenno Heka Banzai every
just
time I
all
have
the time.
tally.
Like you don't care. You don't care. Like fucking demoted down to a flight mechanic. Like you'll just keep calling it.
It might happen.
Oh man. Okay, so let's hop back somewhat on topic, as on topic as we ever get on dev streams. So we have a few more questions here. If every land is a game server, where in the future will non-LAN owners land by default? So there will be some servers that are publicly owned, you could say, like they'd be just owned by the Mars4 community as a whole, and those would be designated areas for new players to be able to land. They'd be able to build stuff on those servers without any management or oversight, basically like anarchistic lands. In those servers, you will probably get, depending on how exactly we finalize the dividing up of land construction-wise, you'll probably get some sort of land claim pole or something that you can place to claim an area of land around it, which allows only you to build within that area. And those will probably degrade quite quickly over time, making space for new players, etc. And what we'll also be adding in a bit later on down the line is that owned lands can be set to public by the landowner. So basically what they're saying is that anyone can come and live and build and stuff on this land, but there will be like some restrictions isn't the right word, taxes, I guess, for living there. For example, like you set your land to public, anyone can come live there, and you allow them to build like 200 square meters per colonist who comes to live there. But of all the resources mined on the landowner gets 20%. And that would just be automatic. Like every time a player hits a rock, 20% of those resources just go to the landowner's vault. So those will be the two sides. And as we introduce the privately owned public servers, we may end up like phasing out the like wholly community owned public servers. We'll need to see how that goes, because obviously ideally is that there would be enough privately owned public servers that we just filter new players into those lands, because that keeps everything working within the like Mars4 economy, within the landowner's economy and stuff, and we don't get involved. But when it comes to new users, making sure they have a good initial experience in the game and stuff like that's very important to keep them coming back and turning them into fans and diehard player base and stuff like that. So we'll see. Having a few lands that like are our initial step or initial introduction for new players.
Basically, like EVE Online, right? You have the first sector kind of place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most MMOs have that kind of some sort of tutorial sector-esque thing. How will non-land owners initially interact with landowners? I kind of answered that already. Yeah, there will be taxes levied and stuff like that the landowner can set, and it just is automatic. And non-landowners, when they're picking lands, like they'll see those options in the server, like this server levies X tax, this server levies Y tax, etc. Will there be new building mechanics? Will there where we can add panoramic windows, elevators, new building parts, diagonal walls, hemispheres? Do you have any other ideas? Want more creativity for building? Yes, there will be. As we already discussed earlier, like panoramic windows and stuff, elevators, all that stuff is in some level of design or production already. But as we said, like priorities at the moment are in getting all the current features set working in the multiplayer game, and then we'll be adding in more features, with the flow being first it gets added to single player, and then once we gain feedback and stuff like that, it gets moved into the multiplayer version. Will buildings be painted in different colors to give individuality to buildings? Yes, a painting system is in some stage of development. We had a prototype of it a while back, and then it got set on the back burner for a while. When exactly that will be coming out, like for public use, I'm not sure if that. And there's a lot of higher priority tasks on that developer's head when he worked on that, but it will happen. Like, it is something. We already have a prototype of it working. It's just at some point, I'm not sure when exactly that will get done, as that's a lower priority task. It's when a developer has time, when they're ahead on some of their other tasks, then they can work on lower priority tasks. And I try and not interfere too much with that. Like, I want those lower priority tasks are normally stuff that our developers are really passionate about, and I want them to prioritize like whatever they're most interested in. Like the electrical grid and stuff like that was something Dennis, one of our engineers, was really passionate about, something he wanted to do. And so I said, as soon as he finished like his required task, then he can start on that. Because at the end of the day, like as with most creative endeavors, the final result is best when the person producing it is really passionate about it. Yeah, I'm not sure where I was going with that description, but hopefully the question was answered. Will there be painting logos on equipment? Painting logos and stuff like buildings, yes. On vehicles, probably. On equipment of like characters, maybe, but less likely, just for technical reasons. Having decals that can be placed on a skinned mesh, which is like what a character is technically kind of a pain in the ass. It's doable. Like, it's definitely doable, but more compromises will need to be made in design and development, and it's something that at this moment, at least, I'm not ready to make those compromises. But for buildings, definitely, and for vehicles, probably. Tell us more about the transport system for transporting resources in the 3D game. So as I discussed this in AMA a while back, transporting resources in 3D game works much like you already see in the 3D game at the moment, where you have resources have mass and size, and they take up inventory space. Different vehicles have different amount of inventory space. And stuff like the Shire has a ridiculous amount of inventory space. Oh man, that looks really cool. By the way, the light hits those plants that are growing. That's kind of, I did it.
Yeah, just leave two. Just leave two. I think 2 is a good number of those to have.
What was I saying? Transport system. So in the 3D game, like, you'll be able to transport stuff via the MCC, but you'll also be able to transport it via the 3D game, just loading it into vehicles and moving to the edge of a land, loading into the next land, and continuing moving with those resources. And if you transport stuff via the MCC, you will have some taxes levied for it, whereas transporting stuff in the game, there'll be no taxes, no interference or anything like that. So you have... that gives players who are interested in driving and like manually transporting stuff, there is a financial incentive to do that. And the taxes levied in the 3D in the MCC will be related to the distance that needs to be traveled for those resources and stuff like that, which hopefully should create like some area for like arbitrage in prices and stuff, where like, for example, in the North and South Poles, water, like ice, frozen CO2, frozen H2O would be far cheaper because it's far more abundant. And then near the equator, it'd be more expensive because it's less abundant, and you have to deal with transportation. How will the resources in the MCC panel be used in the 3D game? Exactly like the resources in the 3D game. So once... At the moment, they're separated because like there'll still be some server wipes. There's still plenty of bugs and exploits and stuff like that we're working through. But once we reach like 1.0 of the finished multiplayer server architecture and all of that's live, then resources in the 3D game and resources in the MCC will be the same thing. They'll be like, you can move resources from 3D game into the MCC and vice versa. So you can mine in the 3D game and move those resources to the MCC and put them on the marketplace and do all that stuff. The only difference between them at the moment is the MCC is persistent. So every resource that you mine on the MCC, like you're keeping that's persistent, that's real, that will never get wiped. Whereas in the 3D game, as there's still lots of balancing and tweaking and development to be done, those resources are not persistent. Like there will be multiple full wipes of all resources in the 3D game, both single player and multiplayer. And obviously all the resources you mine in single player will never enter the multiplayer economy for like security reasons and stuff. Tell us more about the idea of weapons on Mars. How will they be used to protect your buildings? Will it be possible to organize raids and steal resources from other players? Stealing resources from other players is a fairly big topic. There's a lot of discussions and designs that we've concepted around that. But as resources equate to real world money, we need to be very careful about how we deal with that. Unofficially, at the moment, the idea that I'm favoring the most is that if a player wants to have that kind of high risk, high reward environment, he can say that his land is open to being raided, and there'll be a specific like raid time or something, and other players can go to that land, try and raid it with PvP combat and all of that. And if they die, they leave their gear behind and the landowner profits. And if they succeed, they may successfully raid the landowner and like get some of his resources and stuff like that. But in this way, it's kind of an opt-in system where a landowner who doesn't want to be involved in that, doesn't want that level of risk or stuff like that, just doesn't opt in, and then all's good. And we can also use that kind of system to make sure that like a landowner only gets raided when he's online. So for example, maybe there's like a queue of like raid events, and a landowner can opt into the queue, and then like it'll say like in 5 minutes there'll be a raid on land X, in 15 minutes or 20 minutes there'll be a raid on land Y, et cetera, et cetera. So the landowner like opts in when he's online at that moment, knowing that like he's ready for it and he wants it. And then people who want to raid stuff, well, they don't really care about who they're raiding as much. They just want to raid something. So then they like queue up for the next raid. But as I said, that's not official. This is like just speaking casually. That's the idea that I think will fit the best with all of our current design requirements for combat and raiding. But not official, still in the design phase. Like a lot will probably change. We'll probably do like some test versions of that in multiplayer, get player feedback, etc. Next question. It is interesting. It's interesting to find out about the horns of the mad beetle. Can they rip some kind of creature, or are they purely decoration in the 3D game? We will add functionality. There will be functionality. I don't think it works right now, of like impact damage. Like if you run into someone with a vehicle, they'll take some damage. So yes, in short, yes, but it probably won't be as graphic as you may expect. Just like the amount of design time and production time to make like all the visual animations of a character getting impaled and all that stuff, that will probably not end up doing. But once we add in impact damage and stuff, like you can be sure that the Mad Beetles will deal more impact damage than other vehicles. Man, the Shire turned out so fucking cool. I really do like how it turned out. What's the next question? How to recharge the jetpack in the 3D game? George, can you actually show that? So the jetpack, you can just drag and drop hydrogen onto it in the hotkey, in the hotbar. I don't think George heard me.
No, he heard you. He just doesn't have any.
He needs to make some first. Okay. Or grab some.
I could see him like open at the menu and go,
right,
damn.
Shit. Oh, maybe I think it's methane. Yeah, it runs on methane. That's why he's running around. Yeah, so methane production, and he'll need to find some of the raw resources to produce methane. But yeah, what you just do is you just drag and drop the methane from your inventory into your hotbar, and that recharges the jetpack. It looks like he doesn't have any perchlorate brines. You may need to grab a shovel and dig a bit, George. Fucking get to work, man. So there's me demonstrating the full production pipeline. Oh, there he is. There he is. Some perchlorate brines. Yeah, that's actually a good point, Harvey. What he was saying, we need to add some signs for storage. That is something in the development plan that we'll be able to add. There'll be like signs you can add text for to like label different storage containers and stuff like that.
This may take a while.
Yes.
But yeah, you just there you go.
There you go. You just drag the methane over your jetpack in your inventory, and that will refill it. Next is, when will multiplayer be less laggy? Love to play, but the lag needs to go. The next patch for multiplayer will have a lot more features. I'm not sure if it's going to be less laggy. But we are working on optimization for it and stuff. But at the same time, we'll be adding a whole lot of new stuff. So I'm not a guarantee it's to be less laggy. But one of the other big causes of lag at the moment is we don't have the current version of multiplayer doesn't have the system in place to be updating restarting the server regularly, which is kind of necessary. It's kind of weird, but like even was like 20, 30 years later of like massively multiplayer online games, and you still need to turn the server off and on again regularly. No, it's still the best way to have a good running server, is just turn it off and on again regularly. That's all the questions from beforehand. So let me scroll through the YouTube questions. Oh, I'm seeing lots of people like, it's been a while since we did an anime, so there's like lots of people that haven't chatted to in a while. Like, what was it? The Mars4 building company. How you doing, man? Holder King, welcome. Game and Playa. I'm not sure if that's like Game and Playa as in like the American like gangsta, or like Game and Playa as in like Spanish gaming on the beach. Both approved, like both awesome, but so question. Someone was saying, man, the Shire is the size of a fucking dinosaur. Yes, it is massive. Sounds like you drink a lot when the stream starts off.
You have no idea.
Yeah. Alcohol. What's the Simpsons quote? Cause to and solution to all of humanity's problems. I forget what the solution is. But yes, we turn alcohol into games.
No, I tried to follow this guy at a bar once. Died.
Dude, at Gamescom, oh my god, I killed multiple people.
When am I visiting you?
No, but that was funny. There was one that was
rum.
Oh, that was good. There was I think the first night or second night, one executive from like some game marketing service was there with us. He was a British guy. He was a really cool dude. We were sitting there, like he was sitting right next to me, and the other people at the table knew me, and so like they were like intentionally not keeping up with me, and like it was all good. Like I never say you have to like match me. No. Like, everyone just have a good time. But he was like matching me and like going for it. I was like, holy shit, dude, like you're keeping up really well. And the whole night long, like he was fucking into it and everything. Or like as we were near like the end of the night, it was like 1 a.m. or something. I had like our last shot, and I look over at him, he's just like fucking dead. I'm like, oh shit. So like his curve just works like this. That was funny. I like get him back to his hotel and shit. I There's happy. I would like to build a racetrack. Is there a mechanic that would allow for track lap times, etc.? As I mentioned near the beginning of the stream, the road system and stuff that we'll be adding in, when we add that in, we'll add in like a lap time counter or something like that, because that, like, obviously we have to do that. Can we expect multiplayer before 2024? There will be the next version of multiplayer. Yes. Final multiplayer, like the full 1.0, the game is done. No, like there's a lot more work that needs to be done for that. A lot more integrations, a lot more security. Like there's a lot of work still to be done. But there will be the next version of multiplayer, which I said will coming out in about a month or two, and that will include a crap ton more features that will get us a lot closer to that final multiplayer. But before the point when we like are able to say like 1.0 is done, there's still a lot more work for that, because like for everyone in the community, landowners, everyone, like we need to make sure that before we call that and before stuff gets unlocked and all of that, that the game is good enough and robust enough that it can like maintain a community, be profitable, all that, because that's what we all want. Like calling it done too early is, I mean, I don't need to explain it. Anyone who's played a game before has always will have definitely had the experience where they were excited about something, they bought it when it launched, and then like, what the hell, this is borderline unplayable. Like that does not serve anyone. Any plan to introduce burn mechanism in the future? By burn mechanism, are you referring to like the token or resources? If you're referring to the token, that's kind of outside of my department. But in terms of resources, there are a lot of burn mechanisms already in the game. You can see like when you build stuff, when you craft stuff, like vehicle, fuel, energy, stuff like that. So you can already see a lot of the burn mechanisms in the game. I think that actually CNC Red Alert was my favorite game of all time. Yes, man. Me too. Like that, genuinely, that's the game that got me into game dev.
Everyone knows that.
Yes. Oh man. Fucking Frank Klepacki is amazing. Like the composer did Red Alert and CNC and stuff. Just
I still hear the Tanya laugh in my ear. Like,
yes.
If I close my eyes, it's like still there.
Yes, dude. Oh man. What are the plans for rolling out a land manager program? It's still in development. That's something we're working on, and that will be built into the MCC. I can't comment on timeline. Just it's not my department. Oh, that's actually pretty cool that George actually like met up with the drop pod using the jetpack. I'm not sure what
unintentional.
Yeah, we may need to add a collider to it now. Because you notice he drifted right through it. I don't have a date on 1AA because that's outside my department, but I think the first features, I know the first elements of functionality for that are in development. So it's coming, but I'm not sure when. Honestly, I love how the fucking drop pods turned out. They all turned out super cool.
Oh yeah.
I think with that, we've covered all the questions. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. Don't worry about the length between the last AMA and this one. We'll get back on a more regular schedule and doing this more often. It was nice to chat with you all. Be sure to download the latest update to the game that came out today and give us your feedback and thoughts and opinions and ideas. And I'll be chatting with you guys in Discord.
Aircraft questions are now open
to. We're open to feedback on the game, any concepts on sci-fi and surviving on Mars, or like modern aircraft combat. But both within visual range and BVR accepted.
Very nice.
What's the prize for the quiz? I have no idea. I came up with the quiz literally 5 seconds before starting it. So that is Paula's problem. If you want to know what the prize for the quiz is, you should go right on Discord. And that is her problem. And with that, it is officially 5:06 p.m., which means that no longer I am working, and I will turn off my Telegram, and she can bitch at me in the morning. Just thrown under the bus. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I will chat with you guys in Discord.
See you, dudes.
Bye.